Our most popular podcast this year, Young Worker Safety, clearly hit a chord with our audience. In our conversation with safety specialist Amy Towers from Risk Collective, we delved into why employers need to think differently when it comes to young worker safety. Amy provided some procedural recommendations that employers may consider when adopting or looking to assist them with mitigating injury risk for this sector of the workforce. With young workers making up a significant portion of the casual workforce, with also apprentices and trainees, I went in search of an employer who could round out the conversation around young worker safety. I wanted to hear from an employer about how they address young worker safety on the ground, day in, day out. And find him I did. Dave Clare is what the industry calls a safety rock star. Dave, in his role as General Manager of ATC Midwest, is a prophet of purpose when it comes to keeping his workers safe. Pioneers in this area, ATC Midwest were recently awarded the recruitment industry's top safety award in 2016, and it's a pleasure to introduce Dave to Work Profiles. Dave, thanks for joining me.
It's my pleasure, Luke.
Safety rock star, yeah. Well,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. Tanya refers to you as that, and we've definitely enjoyed getting to know you a bit more this year. Obviously, having won that award that I mentioned, and
Maybe that's where I got the reputation from, the way I received it.
The way you received your
on behalf of the team,
and the way you might have partied into the night after the RCSA ball. But
yes, the after party, mate.
The after
party.
Always safe. I was wanting. I mean, you are, we know, renowned for going above and beyond when it comes to this topic, and you're widely applauded as you were when you won that award. As someone who lives and breathes safety, I wanted to get from you firsthand a little bit about ATC and what it is you guys do in this area.
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, I'm only the rock star because the team that I have, that I get to work with every day, those are the real rock stars on the ground.
Yep.
So, I'm just the fortunate guy who got to go and collect the award, but the people who embrace this, and, that'll come out as we go through this interview. But I just want to make sure that's very clear that those guys are the real rock stars. I get to work with some amazing people who care so deeply about making sure everybody is safe. So, but ATC, so we've been in business now for almost 30 years. We're started off as an apprentice and traineeship company as a not-for-profit, which really is, was focused around purely helping people get apprenticeships and traineeships and helping employers deal with all the complexity of putting someone through an apprenticeship and a traineeship. So we've been doing that for the past 30 years. I guess when I came on board with the organization about 4 years ago, there was two key things that the board requested of me with the organization. One is bring more commercial viability to the organization, and secondly was to drive a safer culture with that growth of the organization. So, at ATC Midwest now, our purpose is very clear, Luke, which is to engage and inspire and develop tomorrow's leading workforce today. So everything that we do today in the sense of engaging people into the right roles with the right goals, inspiring them with what they're learning and the people that they're working with, and then developing them on the job and off the job, making sure that that's all happening in a way with whatever we do today is going to impact them for a greater tomorrow, be that our employers and or our apprentices and trainees that we have. We're also the largest employer of youth here in the Midwest. I guess most of the people that we employ as apprentices and trainees would be between the ages of 16 and 21.
Okay.
And through that, we help people with apprenticeships and traineeships, recruitment, labor hire, training development, and then some health and safety stuff. We've been doing that for the 30 years, but what we've done over the last couple of years is then said, okay, instead of just doing recruitment and labor hire, training and development, and health and safety for apprentices and trainees, we now offer that to every organization, whether it's for an apprentice or trainee or not.
Right. And how can I ask, in your time, has the attitude, and clearly you're being ran by people that have very much safety at the forefront of their minds, and that's great to see. Has that have you seen that sort of attitude and the culture flow on, obviously, and the young people that you engage? Are they really open to and have good attitudes towards workplace safety?
I guess like 4 years ago, the journey over the last 4 years, safety has always been an important thing when you're dealing with youth. There's no question. Was it where it needed to be? Absolutely not. Was the attitude of youth, and even in our employees, the whole attitude was, for want of a better term, somewhat complacent and apathetic. We were in the middle of a boom. Doing business was more important than doing safe business, I guess.
Yeah.
It was kind of the thing. Everyone also always assumed that everyone was going to do the right thing. Safety's important, but we've got productivity. We've got to get stuff done, right?
Yeah.
The only real shift in culture that we sought to create was not having safety and working or being productive as two separate things, but as one thing.
Yep.
Because it was, I'm going to make sure I get all the stuff done we need to get done. Oh, and then as an after effect or afterthought, maybe we better make sure we do it safely.
Yeah, okay.
Instead of saying right up front, well, how do we do this safely and productively at the same time?
Yeah, that's fair enough. And the ebook that we produced brought to light a lot of the challenges that dealing with youth can present in terms of how they go about, understanding or learning. Have you, and what tools have you perhaps used with that in mind in terms of what have you used by way of technology? Because we know they're very, digital natives. They grow up, using the tools. Have you used technology and other things as a way of delivering a safety message to the young workers?
Yeah, I'll share with you what we've done at the moment, and then later on we'll probably talk about where we're going and what we're looking at doing next, if you like. But with this, we had to obviously move from reactive, where we're fixing things, to proactive and preventing things from happening.
Yeah.
Right? And that was the first thing when we talk about shifting a culture. So the first philosophy, that I have at heart, and the team, has at heart here is, like, I have young kids as well who were actually happen to go through traineeships with the ATC at the same time. Is if I wouldn't put my kid into that situation, I won't put yours.
Yeah.
Right. So as the general manager of ATC, there's that was my guiding philosophy. If I wouldn't allow that to happen to my child, I certainly wouldn't let it happen to somebody else's. So that's I guess my personal catalyst for making the shift in culture. Which is really one of the key things is, first, if you want to shift the culture, and we'll talk about technology in just a moment, but it has to start with leadership, right? So top down. So our board were the ones who recruited me and asked me to drive that. So our board was committed to improving the safety culture at our organization. We have a safety subcommittee, so we made sure that the people, the infrastructure was right. You can do as much technology as you like, but if you don't have the leadership embracing and leading and driving that culture, whether it be safety or anything else, it's not going to happen, or it won't happen consistently, and that's a depth that needs to happen to make any changes. So there was that first. So we did then, as we shifted actually safety into one of our core values. Actually, it actually become our number one core value at ATC. All decisions that happen. The first filter it gets through is, like, after would engage in fire and develop, is, can we do it safely?
Yep.
Or how would this be done safely? So that becomes our number one core value. Because what we found is, whilst there was some complacency and apathy, there was compliance, which to me is process and it's head driven. What we wanted to do was move people to commitment, which is people and heart driven. So we wanted to be part of who they are, not just something they think about.
Okay.
We're making it more automatic. So we need to get into the hearts. So it's already in the minds of people, but we need to get in the hearts of people. So it's in the hearts and minds of people. So how do we move from, compliance to commitment? And then we looked at, so if we need to do that, what could we do to get people involved in that and have a sense of ownership of it? So one of the very first things we did from a leveraging technology, and I noticed you mentioned in the introduction about, young employers and, the different generations and doing things different, we decided to do a music video. Because kids love their videos, they love music videos as much as even adults do.
Yeah.
So we decided to create a music video. And what we did is we looked at also from all the challenges we were having in a safety situation, was 80% of them were PPE related, so personal protection equipment related.
Yep.
So if we could eliminate 80% of those things, that was a big chunk. So we made a music video about personal protection equipment called I'm Safety and I Know It, based on LMFAO's I'm Sexy and I Know It. And we got the actual apprentices and the host employers and our team all involved in making this music video. So we got them involved we sold them on the idea. They all had to participate in it. And you know what? And so it was theirs. And then they all wanted to share it around. Hey, look at us, look at our organization, look at my buddies. And, it's gone
viral.
Well, viral. I don't know in this grand scheme of viral videos, but just check today, 7,200 views so far. That's
pretty impressive. That's a lot for. Congratulations. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah, for a safety music video. So that was the first thing was, appeal to the hearts and minds of those people. Where are they? I'm a privileged. Where are youth today? What's important to them? What would get them excited to make it fun? It has to be fun. It has to be exciting. So we did that. We created a music video, which was great, and got everybody involved in it. And then so from there we did that. Not everything has to be technology, but certainly that was it. We put it on the sleeves of our shirts. Safety first. It's on our cars. Everything we've done. So we've gone. We've got physical, because we also have to address, and this is really important, physical and emotional safety.
Yep.
Because a lot of people think health and safety is just making sure that people have things, but they don't think about it from an emotional perspective as well. Bullying in the workplace, harassment, all that, so people can feel safe where they're working physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
We've done the video, we've done all those things, we've plastered all over our vehicles, but we've also then got back to the people, and all our field officers or industry consultants who deal with people are all mental health first aid trained. So they have all that. They obviously have all their safety accreditations and certifications, first aid training, but mental health, we have the gold medal now in mental health first aid for Australia.
Right.
So to help with that. So technology is really important, going to the hearts and minds of people, but make sure also you surround the culture with the people. So let's say process people, hearts, minds. You got to embrace all that.
Yeah, sensational.
Bring a real safety culture to life.
Yeah, and that's been evidenced. Has it, as far as the metrics is concerned? Have you noticed a decrease in the amount of workplace, injuries and that occurred thanks to this this focus?
Without a doubt. In the last 3 years, we've only had one LTI, and that LTI only occurred because our host employer did not advise us of when the incident happened, and it turned into an LTI.
Yep.
Because we weren't informed till like 3 or 4 days after it had happened.
Right.
So a breakdown in communication between us and the host employer. But outside of that, and thankfully it also wasn't a significant injury, but it did statistically it showed as an LTI, so we have to accept that.
Yep.
But in the 3 years, that's the only LTI we've had. So we look at the LTI, MTI, so medical treated injuries, which virtually minimal. We're well below state and Australian averages in that space, but LTIs we haven't had any other than that one. And the challenge from a metrics point of view, and this is once again something that we're very adamant about, is they can be subjective, but there's lag and lead metrics. So the lag ones are looking at what's happened.
Yep.
And then lead metrics is where we're really focusing on now, is what could have happened and what can we do to stop that from happening.
Okay.
So we look at risk identification. So we have risk assessments. So some of the tools that we use out in sites, right? So I'll give all our host employers site evaluation sheets, risk assessment tools. We provide them all the tools to make sure, and all the apprentices, and we train the apprentices and trainees how to use those tools on site as well. But with the risk assessments, it's saying what could have happened, or the near misses, so that we can receive that information and say, okay, look, hey, all of a sudden there's been 10 of these near misses. Thankfully, touch wood, nothing happened, but we have to make sure that we can put something in place to eliminate those risks from happening in the future, so we're not just going based on luck.
Right. And where do you see a lot of those future risks happening? I mean, you mentioned the emotional and the need to be aware of those. Where do you see the future risks lying in regards to the work that you, or the field, the industries that you play in?
Yeah, well, so it's the largest employer of youth in the Midwest, and obviously we deal with every single virtual industry you can think of, from offices to mining to agriculture to aquaculture to construction, mechanical, you name it.
Yeah.
We cover them all. So, each industry has its own, for want of a better term, traditional risks.
Yep.
But one that applies across all is in line to that emotional risk. And I think one of the biggest things that we've seen of late is the shift in generations, is the old school thinking and new school thinking, or attitudes towards work. because there's a perception that today's generation are a lazy generation.
Yep.
And so when we look at that, so the mental health risk, and this is why we went and got all our team trained in mental health, because most mental health, those sorts of issues occur before the age of 24.
Okay.
So it's really important for people out there, listeners out there, to understand, once again, the physical critical, emotional just as critical. Because, once again, if people are feeling down and that, they're not paying attention.
Yeah.
And that can lead to physical, or it can lead them into drug and alcohol related treatments, which are not obviously the right thing to do, but people tend to seek escapism through those sorts of sources to get away from dealing with what's going on.
Yeah, right. And you mentioned, so you have had all your managers and that go through a mental first aid training course, did you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how did you find that, and your fellow colleagues, was that a good experience, and it no doubt has given them the tools to be able to identify and address these things? Because I think that's a challenge, I guess, for anyone who's managing people, to how do they deal with and firstly identify and then approach and ask the questions. I mean, we all see the growth in the "Are you okay?" day type of just the simple what to say versus what not to say. Was that the sort of tips that you were given through that training?
Yeah, the training was firstly to identify symptoms or signs. Like our team it's first aid, right? So it's no different than physical first aid. Yep. The simple first responder type things that you can do to keep that person alive until they can get the more specialized help that they need.
Yep.
So same thing for mental health first aid. It's the same concept. Those things that you learn through that process is, how to identify the symptoms, how to, at least, contain, if you like, that until we can, we're not trained psychologists or psychiatrists or that, but we're trained in first aid in the sense of being able to spot and identify and, put that person at ease until we can find them the correct things that they need, or sources or resources that they need to be able to deal with whatever they're going through.
Okay.
So which is really important in today's world, because there is this, there is a dynamic shift happening between generations in the workplace. There's a lot of old school, the way we all learned in back in the days, like, I'm a tail end Gen Xer, but the baby boomers and how they were taught on work sites and construction sites, or even in offices, and the way younger generations are coming in, want to do what they love, want to have a good time, all that. They're not a lazy generation. They just think differently to there. So when there's different levels of thinking, that can cause stress in the workplace.
Yeah, right. And did you find amongst your fellow colleagues there who are also managing the young ones and working with young ones all the time, I guess it's something that you need to be mindful of in firstly acknowledging that they, as you say, they're not a lazy bunch, as many would say, that they just think differently. And so that's an important first step to realise, isn't it? That you are dealing with people that is totally a different generation, which look at things differently. The whole work and risk and it's quite interesting and our ebook, which you would have read our ebook, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely, it's fantastic. We've shared it around numerous times.
Yeah, it's been very well received and giving, and I think that's why I was very keen to talk to you, someone who's in a practical sense dealing with young workers out on site, on the ground, so to speak. And I really have appreciated your time, Dave. I guess, and the last note that I had here was to talk about the future, and I'm sure. Listening to you, you've got, I'm sure, some good things in mind as to how you're going to go about further strengthening the safety culture within ATC. What can you share with us what they look like?
Yeah, sure. So one thing I just want to touch on in that space, just before we get into that, is once again, with today's youth, I think it's all our responsibilities, all our employers' responsibilities out there to empower better lifestyle choices.
Yep.
Okay, so this I brought up in my presentation or speech at the awards was we run random drug and alcohol screen, for example, not to catch people out, but to give the youth the tools to say, hey, I get tested at work, because peer group pressure is one of the largest things that's impacting that generation right now. It's impacted every generation, but and so we want to make sure anyone who's out there listening, make sure that you are empowering better lifestyle choices by giving them the tools to be able to say no.
Yep.
So they can say yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. So just want to make sure that I get a chance to get that in there. But as far as going forward, Luke, it's really important here that, and we've been doing a lot of work with my safety manager, so is a safety consultant that we've been using, and some of the things concepts he's been sharing with us for the future of safety. It's the marriage of what's convenient gets done, and what gets measured gets done. So we need to make safety simple and accessible, and make people responsible for it. Okay, at ATC we no longer have a full-time safety person. So John Regan, our operations manager, who does look after some of the safety components, we don't have a full-time safety person anymore.
Okay.
Because everybody is responsible for safety. We've democratized safety in our business. We've made it accessible to everybody.
And
as we move forward, that's what we're looking to do, is how can we leverage technology to continue that democratization of safety so it's readily available and accessible to everybody. So we can make the marriage of what's convenient and what gets measured. So it goes back to Steve Jobs, when we built the iPod, it was putting 1,000 songs in your pocket. Well, what we're looking to do is put everything about safety in your pocket so it's readily available. Also, so we can capture data, those lead indicators we were talking about, risk assessment. Well, we still receive those sheets at the end of every week, then we analyze them. So we're still up there lead about what's happening or could happen. We want that information right now, not in a week's time. Because a week is too long in safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and once again, so that's what we're trying to we are cutting out sheet safety. We're democratizing safety, making it available. We're looking at video, online stuff, putting it in your pocket, so people can focus on the intent, not the compliance. Because that's, once again, a level of commitment. We want people to focus on the intent of the safety processes and procedures and things that exist, not the compliance of those things.
Yeah,
it's not a cover your backside strategy. It's let's once again get part of who we are is safety, not another thing that we do.
Yeah, no, and it sounds, but you're doing that very well, Dave, by the sound of things.
But we're not resting on our laurels with that, Lucas. One thing I said is that we're looking at everything, challenging every process. How can we democratize safety and get it instantly accessible so we can focus on the intent? And if that means online videos, databases, an app, you name it, there's so much. The world is changing so fast, mate. Like, I could not tell you what advancements in technology we're going to use. All I know is we're looking at every single one of them and saying, how can we benefit from it?
Yeah, no, that's excellent, and you're clearly passionate, and I think that it's just I can clearly see why you won that award. The safety award. It's fantastic to hear someone so committed to safety. I think at the end of the day, we all want to go home to our families, don't we? Safe, and no one deserves to die at work.
Our definition of safety is that freedom from danger and risk to everyone under our care goes home the way they came to work.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you again very much for your time, Dave. Looking forward to hearing more about the great things ATC do into the future. And really appreciated your time on Work Profiles. By the way, you're our bookend for the year. So
awesome. It's
been the first year. We've done 6. And really, I think the topic of young workers' safety is really, as I said at the top, hit a chord with our audience. And they do. There's a lot of them out there and employed by. So it's important that we focus on it. So. Appreciate your time, Dave.
No, my pleasure. Make sure everybody reads that ebook that you guys published. It is a critical document for every organization, every parent, every employer, you name it, even every young person in the workplace. They need to understand what you guys have put together. It's phenomenal. So well done.
Terrific. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Good, mate. Cheers.